expected to feel burnt out and stuck in a rut with exercise, but experiencing fatigue and joint pain has resulted in me in completely reassessing my exercise program. I have created a brand new routine built around me and my joint pain issues, which I'm going to share with you. This has been developed for a reset and rehabilitation. So if you're experiencing maybe joint pain and fatigue or a combination of both, please watch this video. So let's talk about joint pain. Joint pain is a massive issue for women at this stage in life. And I'm normal, I'm just like any other menopausal women, and I'm 58 now. And what joint pain can result in is it actually makes you feel tired, debilitated, being in constant pain. It's kind of always in your thought process, isn't it? And so that can lead to lots of other problems and, things like burnout, which is what actually I've been experiencing. Burnout with my workouts, general burnout, because things aren't really the way that you want them to be. So what's happened? Well, I'll tell you what's happened to me. I've been experiencing pain in my hip and in my lower back, and it's been going on for several months now. And in fact, I can't actually remember when I felt normal. That's how long it's been going on. What's been happening is I've been finding workarounds at the gym and trying to push through pain, but obviously not pushing through so much that it's going to make it worse, but finding alternative exercises or finding modifications that I can actually do which won't aggravate my hip and my lower back. Generally, I'm having to stay off things like deadlifting movements because they can be particularly problematic for me. So it is actually hindering my progress, because a full leg session just hasn't been on the cards for me to go really heavy and really push really hard. As I said, this actually drains me of energy. I feel burnout. I've just been stuck in a rut where I don't feel that I'm able to move forward. So I thought to myself, enough is enough. I'm going to go and see my physiotherapist, who is an amazing guy called Terry. And I will put his details actually in the description. So if you're based in the southwest of England, in the Bristol area, he is absolutely fantastic. Now, he's the one that actually got me to lift weights in the first place. Completely trust implicitly the advice that he gives, because it's second to none. I probably wouldn't be standing before you today if I hadn't come across him, which was probably around about 8 or 9 years ago now. And he encouraged me to take up weightlifting to actually fix a problem in my neck and my shoulders, which ironically I don't have anymore because I took his advice. So I went to see him, and he kind of had a really good talk with me, as well as giving me a sports massage, and kind of just said, Melissa, you've been lifting weights for so long, you need to come off that for a short period of time of 3 to 4 weeks and work on building up the strength in your smaller muscle groups. So what weightlifting is really good for, it's really good for building your bigger muscles. I do lots of compound movements, my quads, my glutes, all of my lower body. I've built up a lot of strength, and as you can see, I've still built strength in my upper body. So my back, my shoulders, my chest, they've all really come on, and so that's really helped me. But because I am doing progressive overload, my physiotherapist said, right, now you need to heal your body and it's time to pull back. So what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is when you gradually increase the intensity of the weights that you're lifting. In all the programs that I run for women over 40 and with my own body, as you can see, my coaching clients, what I recommend, and I still recommend to you, is progressive overload, because that's what's going to build muscle and that's what's going to burn calories. It's going to continually challenge your muscle doing progressive overload, and that is what really helps you build a body and have a defined, toned body. However, because I am experiencing these problems and I've been doing progressive overload for 8 or 9 years, really without much of a break. I only had a break, really the longest time I've had a break was 6 weeks, and it was because I got COVID. Because my smaller muscle groups are not working so well. My quads, my hamstrings, even my calves, they're all actually having problems because the underlying smaller muscles are not really strong enough. And so that's what's affected my back and my hip. And that's what my physiotherapist has explained to me. What he wanted me to do, and I'll talk about how I implemented this next, but it's really important to describe what I'm doing and why. And that is, he wanted me to work the smaller muscle groups for a period of 3 to 4 weeks to give the larger muscle groups a break and build up the strength in my smaller muscle groups. And the reason being is because I have misalignment in my body. And so what I need to do, and this is with my hamstrings, my glutes, my quads, they're all kind of slightly misaligned. So he can tell when I'm performing a squat, it's not quite on point. I'm kind of leaning over to one side and probably pulling in my quads more than my glutes. And so what's going to happen if I work my smaller muscle groups and build the strength up there, it's going to help the alignment in my body and mean that I can sort of become pain-free. So now I'm going to show you what I'm actually doing instead. So on the advice of my physio, I'm actually doing calisthenics and I'm doing Pilates, and it's a combination of the two. And the difference is with calisthenics and Pilates, you're not actually doing progressive overload. So what is calisthenics? This is a book about calisthenics, and I've been using this for my workouts. So it's called Complete Calisthenics, and it's by Ashley Kalim. And really, really useful, good book. This is an amazing book. But calisthenics, as you can see from the front cover, they're basically body weight exercises. So it's going to be like push-ups, pull-ups, and those are the basic ones, dips, but things like handstands. So there's a little bit of gymnastics in there as well. And what that really does is you're going to be, instead of doing progressive overload, you're doing body weight exercises. So it's still strength training, it's still a type of strength training, but you're not gradually increasing the weight because it's kind of the same weight all the time, but you're progressing in different ways. So at my level, I'm sort of starting off at beginner level, and I can do a push-up, but for example, to make it more difficult, I can do a push-up with my feet actually raised off the floor. And so that's going to make it more difficult. So in the book, it guides you through beginner level and then some progression that you can make. So for example, with a pull-up, normally, and I'm at the beginning level, I would just do a pull-up to my chin, but more advanced people do a pull-up right to their chest. And if you get more advanced, you can actually do something called a muscle-up, which at the moment I'm nowhere near being able to do that, but that is the ultimate goal. And so calisthenics is still really challenging. In some ways, it's actually harder than lifting weights. And you're still going to be working muscles, but you're going to be working a lot of your smaller muscle groups as well as your larger muscle groups. And also, it's really, really strengthening your core. And that's really important for me to strengthen my core. So the other thing I've been doing is Pilates. So what is Pilates? Pilates was invented by a guy called Joseph Pilates. And again, it is about strength training. It's a type of strength training, but you are not going to be doing progressive overload. Instead, the emphasis on core strength, posture, which I really need because I talked about misalignment, and stretching, balance and flexibility, and there is some strength in there, but it's not progressive overload. So you'll often sort of, you know, if you're doing reformer Pilates, you have some equipment to use, but you tend to not go heavier and heavier through the workout, and you're using your body weight a lot of the time for resistance. Once I've been implementing that long enough to build up my smaller muscle groups, then I can go back to the gym for heavy lifting. It's not a permanent thing, it's just something to get me through this period of pain that is really kind of been getting me down. And I'm not trying to play the sympathy card, and you know, don't write in the comments that I'm complaining about nothing, because I'm not complaining. What I'm doing is actually showing you how I'm overcoming this period of joint pain, which every menopausal woman, to a greater or lesser degree, we're going to experience that. And so I was really keen to just share it with you. So what am I going to be doing during this rehab stage? So I've talked about, like, it's calisthenics and it's Pilates. So what specifically will that involve? So I'm going to be doing body weight exercises. I'm going to be using resistance bands instead of weights. I'm going to be spending something called time under tension, and that is typically something like an iso hold. So for example, a wall sit would be one of these things. I'm going to sort of take you through what my workout schedule looks like, and then take you through some typical exercises. This is the plan. Day 1, leg and glutes. So I'm going to do leg exercises. So like I talked about, like wall sits, really slow squats, you know, single leg squats. So they're often known as pistol squats. And then a lot of glute exercises that you actually do during Pilates as well. So things like lying leg raises. Day 2, I do an upper body day, which is going to involve dips and press ups, that kind of thing, and some core work. Day 3, I'm going to be doing core work, Pilates and stretching, and you know, I've just joined a class, so I'm going to be doing that at a class. Day 4 is leg and glute exercises again, because you know, I can fit in more than one session per week, and that's really going to help rehabilitate my body, and some stretching. Then day 5 is the upper body day. It's probably the only day I actually go into the gym, because I want to do pull-ups and dips at the gym using a bar. So really practicing a lot on my pull-ups and dips, but also incorporating some core. And then day 6, if I manage to do this, it would be full body workout or a Pilates session. That's what the structure of the week looks like. And I'm going to show you now some typical exercises. So the other thing I've been doing is practicing my pull-ups. So it's a really good opportunity to get better at pull-ups now that I'm not lifting weights very much at all. So we got these outdoor bars, which is amazing. And what I've been trying to do is like some strict ones, and also jumping up and then lowering myself down, because that's a really good way of actually getting better at pull-ups. So you can get yourself up and then slowly lowering yourself down, and that's going to really build up your strength so that you can do multiple pull-ups then. And then you can do scapular, strengthen your scapula by just hanging and then doing that with your shoulders. And then if I give my hands a bit of a break, eventually you should be able to do a strict pull-up. Like that. So give it a try, and you could use a resistance band. So if you're nowhere near being able to master a full pull-up, you can just use a band. So I've looped it round the bar like that, and then you're going to put your foot in there, and it's just going to support your body weight, so it makes it easier. Like that. So give that a try if you can't do a full pull-up. So some of the typical exercises I do are squat related. So the first one I'm going to show you, and I actually couldn't do this for very long to start off with. So it's like an Asian squat. And what you need to do is get your backside as low to the ground as possible. You want to have your legs hip width apart and slightly turning out, your feet slightly turning out. And my goal, which I now can do, but I couldn't do at first, was to get to 5 minutes. So that's always a fantastic exercise to just improve your mobility, and you can do it anywhere. But I tend to sort of start off my routine or finish my routine with an Asian squat. Now, single leg exercises are also really challenging. So, you can do a single leg squat by, I'm just kind of holding onto a sofa there for support. And then when you get a bit better at it, you can actually do something called a pistol squat, which I used to be pretty good at, and then because I haven't been doing it all that much, I lost my strength and my flexibility a little bit. So that's another thing I've been sort of practicing. And if I go over to the wall here, there's another exercise which is fantastic. So this was what I was talking about in terms of iso holds and time under tension. Time under tension is actually going to challenge your muscles. So, there are still in some of my workouts actually a 1 minute wall sit. So those kind of iso hold movements are really good. Now, if I'll go back here and get on the floor a bit. I do actually do some glute exercises, and these are more the Pilates, Pilates type of exercises. But your leg raises, and then you can do them like that, where you're circling your leg, and then a little bit more time under tension. So those are really good. And then other glute exercises are glute kickbacks, like that. And then if I turn to the other side, this is like a core exercise, but a glute exercise as well. So that can be really good for strengthening your glutes. So there's a few glute exercises. And then if I stay on the floor, we want to be working our core. So again, I started leaning into some of the Pilates moves, but also some calisthenics. So that's a typical Pilates move. But, with the core, one of the calisthenics moves that's really, really good. Again, it's like an iso hold. So you're going to hold that. And possibly they do that in calisthenics as well, in Pilates as well. So you can also do it like that. And then another one of my favourites is a plank. And if you can hold a plank for a minute, you can do it in different styles as well. So you can be up like that on your hands to do a plank. So there are various other sort of core exercises that I do. I won't go to every single one of them. Push-ups are fantastic. And, if you can't do a full push-up, you can do them on your knees. There are various, in calisthenics, there's various advanced levels as well. So there's this type of push-up, and you can sort of go to a push-up. If I just come over here with your feet raised as well. So I've been doing various variations on those. And then of course we have a dip, which you can use, you do on bars, but you can use any furniture on your home to do dips. So those are a few of the examples of the body weight exercises that I do. And next, I'm going to talk about a really key thing that you need to take you through all of this. That's really going to help. So what about my mindset in all of this? Because that was a real blow when I found out that I couldn't actually do my strength training for 3 or 4 weeks, although it doesn't sound very long, does it? And it may go on for longer, because actually I've been doing this 3 weeks. I'm still not pain free, and I contacted my physio and he was like, well, do it for a bit longer and it could be extended up to 6 weeks depending on how I get on. So it's really important to reflect on your mindset and reset yourself, because it would be really easy to give up, wouldn't it? And say, okay, I can't do the lifting, so I'm going to give up and I'm going to stop. And that's really not an option for me. I felt quite deflated that I couldn't lift weights, because part of my personality. It's almost kind of part of my image, part of my brand, part of who I am. And so not being able to lift weights, it almost sort of sent me into a crisis. And then I had to sort of sit down and really think about it and reflect on this. And I'm going to share it with you because it's quite useful. And this is a question that I ask women that I coach. And this is what I had to think. What is your really strong reason why? Why do you want this? And that's why I had to sort of sit down and reflect. And I actually talked to my physio about it as well. What is it I want? Well, what I want is longevity. And I want to have an amazing quality of life. I'm 58. I'm going to be going into my 60s, 70s and 80s. And beyond, if I'm lucky to live that long. I want the freedom to do the things that I want to do. That's really the strong reason why, for my fitness. So it's less about aesthetics and more about longevity. And so in order to achieve that, I actually need to listen and take on board what my physio has told me and really take that seriously, because if I don't watch out, my hip and my back are actually going to hinder what I'm doing. And he's given me like a protocol, if you like, that he's recommended. And what I want is a really long and healthy life. And so what I've got to do is implement that. So I would invite you to do exactly the same. Reflect on what your really strong reason why is. It might be something different. It might be I want to wear swimwear on vacation. I want to wear the clothes in the back of my closet. It doesn't have to be health-based, or it's like, I want to be able to manage my health more effectively. I don't want to go into my old age with like type 2 diabetes, at risk of heart disease, all those things. It could be, aesthetics, like I said, or it could be health. And then you want to write it down. That's what I did. I wrote it down. What's my really strong reason why? And I have to keep coming back to it. When you're feeling less motivated, when you're feeling burned out, and when you're feeling like, I don't really feel like this, come back to your strong reason why. Another tip is to make a commitment and write it down. So I've made a commitment to myself to do the calisthenics, follow the book. I've read the book. I've written myself a workout out of the book, which is manageable for me. I've made a commitment to go to Pilates at least once a week. And I've actually joined a local group as well, a local, club, if you like, so that it gives me that commitment. Because now I've joined, I'm a member, I have to go, I've paid for it. You need to make some sort of commitment, and that's when you know it's going to happen, if you make a commitment to yourself. And just remember, what I've always also said to myself, it's in my hands. No one else can do this for me. I've got to just get up and do this for myself. And it's what my physio told me as well. He said, you're going to have to take matters into your own hands. to help manage your pain and make these improvements so that your smaller muscle groups strengthen. And then, hopefully, eventually, it may take a long period of time, but I'm going to be pain-free. So I have to take responsibility for my own actions. I need to treat this rehab phase like it was my job. So if you've got a job, a career, whatever it is, it's like you take it as seriously as that, because it's your health. And health is wealth, isn't it, after all? If you can improve your health, every aspect of your life is going to improve. So you have to treat it as seriously as a profession. So I've kind of written down my workout plan, I've scheduled it in my calendar, and I'm like hitting those goals of doing that, 5-6 days a week. So this is an insight into actually how I work with my one-to-one coaching clients on my Platinum Premium program for women over 40. So if you would like to work with me and my team of coaches on this high-end program where you get your nutrition tailored for you, your workouts tailored for you, so if you're like me and you're in pain or you've got mobility issues, you have a workout designed around you. And importantly, you have a coach supporting you with all the mindset stuff that I've been going through personally myself. So you're going to get a high level of support to help you get through that. So just like I've shown you what I actually did for myself, me or one of my team of coaches is going to create that just for you so that you get the transformation that you've always dreamed of, and there's no limit to what women can achieve, I promise you. So if that sounds good, hit the link below, and in the meantime, watch this next video on inflammation.